Good afternoon. We're here with old Pemberton resident Joe Antonelli, and Joe came here a long time ago, and he has been featured in a lot of the history. What we're interested in is how he first came to Pemberton, and I believe it was with working for the BC Forest Service, but then he also had an interesting facet of his career with the establishment of a chainsaw business, the first in Pemberton. He also had a mill up by Mosquito Lake. He was also engaged in a lot of other various and sundry topics and with the logging industry. And I think eventually he ended up trucking and did a lot of work for diking and logging people. At any rate, Joe, could you start at the beginning and what brought you to Pemberton with the BC Forest Service?
Oh, well, originally I was tree planting and running tree planting camps on the island, and I wrote the assistant ranger exam and passed, so they sent me to ranger school and everything, and I got to be a forest ranger and worked at first at Ganges and then up the Minstrel Island and Seashell and quite a few places, you know, and then finally to Pemberton, worked there, and then I quit working there for them and started up a little sawmill and ran the mill with an old tractor that Lloyd Shore used to use on his farm for a while, and then got a better motor and did a lot better. First year with that tractor, didn't have much power, and I went in the hole $1,100 the first year. But then after that, when I got that other motor, I did all right.
Was that during the war?
Oh no, I was in the war. I was in the Air Force for about 5 years. Yeah, and so then after the war I came back, and that's when this all took place, you see.
Okay.
But I did work before the war for the Forest Service too, and then went back to them, and then this gradually happened till I came here and quit and got married and raised a family here and sawmilled, and then got trucking when Whistler started. That's when I did real good.
We have some of your saws that came out of your original collection of mall saws.
Oh yeah.
Tell us how you set up that business here.
I was in Vancouver and I ran into the mall guys because I needed a power saw. I got a mall, and then they asked me to take the sales of them here, like, you know, I took so I sold, I forget, I think I sold 17 of them in the valley. The profit on them was 30%, which I thought was kind of high, so then I supplied a gas can like that red one there with every saw and tools that I threw in and everything, because I thought that was too big a profit, eh? But anyway, I sold 17 of them and wore out a couple of them in my own business there, making logs. But I used to work 8 hours sawing in the mill, and then everybody went home, and I'd wind the top off of a can of pork and beans and then eat it with a spoon right out of the can and get back to work and make logs till it got too dark to see for the next day. That was tough days.
So when you were had your mill up in Mosquito Lake, where did you get your logs?
No, it was at Tisdale.
Tisdale?
Yeah, I had a timber sale there.
Okay.
Yeah. As soon as Whistler started up, I went into trucking and did good at that.
So you were cutting ties for the railroad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And export too.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, for England. They were 5 by 10 and like and for this railroad they were 7 by 9, you see. No, the export ones, they had to be real perfect, no weighing and so many rings to the inch, you know, and all kinds of stuff. Every time the inspector would come and we'd send out a load, there'd be a few culls, you know, you'd think they were all right, but they weren't. So I used to take them home. We lived up the valley then, and I had a big wood furnace, and I used to cut them in half, and you could put half in a whole tie in there at a time, you know, and they run all night.
Yeah, so you started out, I seem to remember you had a bunch of old trucks, flat decks.
Yeah.
For hauling these things. They trucking must have changed quite a bit.
Well, the first one was a gas truck, Ford gas truck, and then the next one was diesel, and I put 1.5 million miles on that one, and Nick still got it.
And that's the old Ford Lieber.
He got a little bit of work to put it together, got it some of it apart right now, but when he gets it together, it's good for another 1 million miles, because he made it all pretty near like new.
Did any of this logging without power saws?
Oh, yeah. Well, before the war, Ken and I were like, we used to fall snags for forest fire protection, and that was hand falling. And we could work, we were each ambidextrous. We could saw left-handed or right-handed, and chop right-handed and left-handed. Without any problem. When we get tired, we just change hands and keep on going. You know, and we made records, hand falling, and so we set records that never got broken. But of course, the power saws came in shortly after, so that might be partly responsible for that. But somebody would have beat it sooner or later, I guess. And I did quite a bit of logging too before. Like when I first joined the Air Force, they put me on leave without pay for 2 years because so the Army couldn't get a whole bunch of us. They did that with a whole pile of guys. And so I logged at Oyster Bay and Comox Lake, and for different, different places, and that was quite an experience too, because the last day I worked in the woods, they were running the rigging and you couldn't get new lines for the machines very good, and so here the haulback line particularly had all kinds of long splices in it because it would break, you see. Well, this day, just about quitting time, when they got the rigging back about 2,000 feet into the woods to the back spar, the haulback broke. Down came the what they called the bike, which is the thing that run up on the. It came down and broke the top off the spar tree, and down came all the rigging and everything, and boy, what a mess! And so. That same night when I got to camp here was my call to the Air Force. So I was sure happy about that, because that would have been a heck of a job. Yeah. Berkeley taught my pal and I to splice and climb the trees and all that kind of stuff too. And Drew Berkeley, I guess he's dead a long time ago, because he had retired quite a while before that, and because steam engineers were hard to find, they talked him into coming back, and even though he was retired, they got him back, and he was logging.
So that was the tail end of steam, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was pretty well the end of steam. Yeah. When I got to be assistant ranger, first place I went was Lake Cowichan, and that's how I met Harry Hodgson. When I told him what I wanted to do, he took it on, you see, but we both got credit for it. That was for that big thing with all the dates and stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This is the big round of logs that,
Oh, yeah.
Just briefly mention how that started out
Oh, yeah.
and what we ended up with.
Yeah, well, I don't know, I was there one day where they were splitting these great big logs, anywhere from 9 to 11 feet in diameter, and so anyway, when I saw the size of those logs, I got the idea of making a thing like that, because some of those logs was big enough that the center would have been around the birth of Christ, or before,
2,000 years ago.
Yeah. So anyway, I've never seen that one since it went away, but I don't know where it is now, or even if it still exists. But that was in about 52, I guess. Oh well, even on the railroad here, I think the last diesel locomotive ran on there about 56, and I remember one day I'd been up pretty near one of the last trips that one old 163 made, I think. I was duck hunting when I came back here. I was duck hunting on Taylor Lake, which was just past the Red Bridge, about a mile or 2 miles. Coming back with ducks hanging all over me and my dog and my shotgun, and I got this side of the Red Bridge, and along comes 163 with about two loads of poles and that old car, passenger car, old gas car made into a caboose was on the back end. So I gets off to the side to let it go by, and so here it slows down and stops with the caboose steps right beside me, eh? Johnny Buchanan was the conductor, and so he come out on the steps and he said, "Hand me up your dog and your gun and your ducks, and then I'll lift you in." And I said, "What's going on?" He said, "I'm going to give you a ride into this station." When we got to the station, I gave them each, the fireman and the engineer, I gave them each 3 mallards, and Johnny Buchanan 3 mallards.
It seems to me that when you were living up the valley, that was one of your last logging shows, you know, in behind the house. Didn't you clean off that ridge?
I was logging
Ryan Creek.
Dr. Dill's place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Used to be quite a few of those old mills in the valley.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there was lots of them, all right. Yeah.
I remember just going through the Caribou in 1967. They said they had 650 mills around the area.
Well, I don't doubt that.
Every little sand pile had a mill.
Yeah.
It was like that everywhere. People trying to make a dollar.
Oh, yeah.
So the major export was here was ties and then poles.
Well, I didn't never bother with poles. The poles, I always let somebody else take them. I had one timber sale on Dill's property that had some really nice poles, long ones that were worth a lot of money. And so I got one of the older farmers up the valley. He was supposed to be a real good faller to fall him because they didn't want him to break it. And there was 60 of them in there, and he broke every one but 3.
So when you did all your skidding with crawler tractors?
Well, at first I had a team of horses at
okay.
Tisdale in the first setting there, and then I got a little crawler from Green, Mr. Green.
Yeah.
What was his first name?
Walter.
Walter Green, yeah, that's right. And he bought this little one that's out here. Yeah, but it was too small, so I went and bought a John Deere with a winch and everything, and did way better then. And after that, a bigger John Deere after that, which Nick still has, runs good too. Yep. And then after, of course, I went gravel trucking and then finally retired. But I was still driving gravel trucks in Worcester when I was 79 and a half. And they couldn't tell how old I was, you know. So they were sad when I quit because they said I was the only guy that could lay a spread of crush and stuff just exactly like that they wanted it, you know.
Was it you that told us the story about the gold piece out near Pool Creek?
Oh yeah, there was several of us in the story anyway, and it was before the road to Darcy was paved.
Right.
And we were hauling gravel, fixing parts of it up and stuff, and one of the Menzels, Henry Menzel, was running the grader, so we stopped at the where the halfway house used to be, and right there was a nice place to get a cold drink of water because they had a little spring that came out there where they used to water the horses when that was a stopping place on the Caribou Road, because that's the old Caribou Road there, you see. And yeah, so anyway, we were sitting on the bank of the road, side of the road, having our lunch, and so while we're having our lunch, that's a good chance for Henry to be grading the road because no trucks have to stop and get out, you know. So he and then he'd eat his lunch later. Anyway, after he went by, we were sitting there, and then along come an American in a truck just stopped to ask us how much further to Darcy, and he was looking out, and then he opened the door and jumped out, and here picked up a $20 gold piece. And so of course we all had a real good look around for up and down the road for a ways to see if there was any more, but there wasn't. That might be still some up there, I don't know, but they're under pavement now if they are. But they, apparently, it was rumored that they used to bury their money, mostly gold money those days, you see, and they'd bury it in fruit jars, and they'd know exactly how far it was from this corner or that corner of the house or some darn thing, so to find them again when they wanted them, but of course they...
Anything else you can think of?
Not really, I guess.
Well, I can tell you, he's not retired yet. He's still out there cutting and splitting wood.
Oh yeah, I just finished cutting my five cords of firewood for the winter.
Yeah, Joe still takes an active interest in this museum and recently donated some logging equipment and huge blocks that used to be on the haulback lines for the spar trees.
Yeah.
And those are quite interesting.
Oh yeah, that
Bit
big
of
block, I
history
think,
there. Bit of history.
that big block, I think, weighs 1,300 pounds. If I remember right, yeah. The heavy thing, big. But anyway, everything, all the lines were big those days. And yeah, Sayward, that's where Anderson logged before he finished here,
Okay.
Sayward. Yeah. And up there, they, one of his locomotive engineers built a cafe up there that they call the Cable House. And it's all 2-inch or bigger cable all around the outside and welded so it can't all, you know, to steel
Yeah.
I-beams inside and stuff, and it's worth seeing if you ever go up that way, and all kinds of old stuff too. If you ever go up the island, you go to Sayward and you'll see the Cable House, a real good restaurant too, a good place to eat, and all this old logging equipment. There's crosscut saws hanging on the wall. That's about, what's that one that's hanging on the wall there? 11 feet or 12 feet or something?
15 feet long, I think.
15?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long crosscut saw for cutting down the real big trees in those days, you see.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So those guys must have been pretty tough.
Oh,
Worked all
sure.
day with those
Oh, yeah.
saws.
Yeah, so anyway, if you're ever up that way, it's worth seeing. Go, if you ever go to Campbell River, go another 30 miles or so up to
Okay.
Sayward and go to the Cable House for lunch, and they have a real good meal, and it's all this old outside. They've even got Ford tractors, you know, the old steel wheel Ford
Yeah.
tractors, and one of them made into a little cat,
Wow.
you know, that somebody, and an old gas 60 cat there, and an old railroad speeder, and all kind of old logging trucks, and you can still turn the motor over with a crank. Old 4-cylinder with not even a cab one. The guy just sat there on a orange box or something for a seat, I think.
Yeah.
And it's still there, and a great big log sitting there that's about 6 or 7 feet, but too rotten to cut a piece off it now. And steam donkey there and everything. Preserved and all kinds of old stuff, you know, and great big choker bills this high, you know, that they used on 2-inch or inch and a half line or 1.25 or something for chokers those days on those big logs.
So did they have a lot of accidents back then that you can recall?
Oh yeah,
Pretty bad.
yeah. There was one place on Lake Cowichan that where we were logging in there, and there was one place where after we skidded the logs, you could smell garlic. And so anyway, here's this wild garlic was all over the place, so that when we were having our lunch, one of the guys put some in and wiped it on his pants and put it in his sandwich, and he was dead by 2 o'clock. So there's two kinds, you see. Yeah, so they just put them off to the side till quitting time, and we kept on logging. Of course, you know, we had to hike down to the track about 2,000 feet because we were on a coal-decker, and this was way up the hillside where this stuff was. And later on, they found the remains of an old airplane wrecked up there too. That of the old days when they used to fly to Zabellos and that. And one went missing and they finally found the remains of it there. We heard it sounded like somebody beating a drum. And so we walked back there to see what the heck it was, and here was a wing of this airplane was still hanging by one of the control cables, had wrapped around a limb or something. And the wind would blow up and it would sound like a drum when it banged against a tree sort of a thing. So we told them about this, and of course they went up and checked it all out. I think there was 5 skeletons in it and stuff like that, but yeah, that was at Lake Cowichan Lake for the Coalmouth Logging Company. Yeah.
Okay, that seemed to me that, talking about flying, didn't you build your old airplane?
Well, I helped the guy build one,
Help one, okay.
Model A Ford engine in it.
But that wasn't here.
No, this was in Surrey.
Okay.
Yeah. I was still in my teens when that was. But I got a pilot's license after and everything, and still got it, but nothing more. Not no more flying anymore now.
No, I guess not.
No. Yeah, so right across from Green's house, there's a great big rock. And they're right beside that rock, a dugout canoe, and it belonged to Johnny Andrews, who they used to call Stoneface because he never ever smiled. And so anyway, he was trapping up there, you see, and then I guess he groped and nobody knew where he had left those things. I just found them when I was deer hunting one time.
Ah.